Hello and welcome to a series of videos on how to use KRITA, the free and open source painting software created by KDE. This is going to be a series of videos that is generally leaning more towards intermediate to advanced users, but for the most part I'm going to be assuming that you know how to use most Windows applications, so I'm not going to go through like the absolute basics, and there are plenty of other videos out there that do cover the absolute basics of KRITA. So a lot of these videos are going to be like really straight to the point, and they're going to be as short as I can possibly make them. There may be longer videos in the series. For example, I do want to cover how to do animation, and that's very likely going to be a longer sort of video. And I want to cover a lot of like basic features in KRITA that are like readily available but nobody seems to use. There's a lot of complexity to KRITA. It's a really, really powerful painting program. In my opinion, I think it's one of the best, if not the best, painting program out there at the moment, and it's completely free, which is frankly amazing. There are some things that it can't do, and there's some sort of quality of life things that are a bit annoying to work around. If you're coming from Photoshop, say, I think you'll find a lot in KRITA that you'll love. But if you're coming from Clip Studio Paint, you may find some things lacking. Each of these painting programs has their own quirks, of course. KRITA is no exception. But for anything you think you may not be able to do in KRITA that you're used to doing in another program, it's very likely that you can do it. It's just that there's some workaround you have to do, or that whatever the feature is named something else, or it's buried within a menu. I'm hopefully going to show you how to find those features and use them to their fullest. As I said, KRITA is completely free, so to keep this video as short as possible, let's get straight into how to install it. So the first thing we want to do is go to our search engine of choice and just search KRITA, and it's usually the first result. If you're worried, it's krita.org. Go to download and click on the Windows 64-bit installer. It'll download. So it just unpacks itself, which takes a minute. You choose your language. I already have KRITA installed, so it's going to try and reinstall itself. I might as well go through this and just show it quickly. This is the GNU public license. This is basically just saying that it's open source software. You're not selling your soul or anything here. Choose where to install it. Make sure you have shell integration. This basically means that thumbnails for preview images of KRITA files will display in the Windows Explorer, and you can make a desktop icon if you want. Give it a hot minute and then click finish. Now you go to the start menu and you search for KRITA. This is the splash screen. It just shows this whilst it's loading. And there we go, we're into KRITA. So I'll just give a really basic overview of everything that's here. Some of my user settings have carried through the reinstall process. So the top bar here may look a little bit different from what you're seeing, but all of the windows on the side and this taskbar and the stuff in the middle should all look the same. To begin using KRITA, you can either just drag and drop an image out of your file explorer straight into the middle, or click New File and it'll come up with a bunch of templates. You can also enable news here, which will tell you when new versions of KRITA are released. And you can resize these sections to get them to fit your screen, but we'll go over that more in another video. To install it on Linux, it's even simpler than that. You just go to your package manager and type in KRITA, and it will be right there for you. Here on Android, it's a very similar process. We want to just go to the Play Store and search for KRITA. First result, install. It says that this is in early access, so on Android you're probably more likely to encounter bugs, but I've so far found it's very stable and a very, very good alternative to Clip Studio Pro on Android. The number of features in the Android version and the desktop version, as far as I can tell, is pretty much the same. So anything you can do in KRITA on desktop, you can pretty much do on Android, though you may need a Bluetooth keyboard to take full advantage of all of the keyboard shortcuts and to sort of keep the same workflow. Then we hit open. I don't think it needs to send me notifications, but it does need access to your files so that it can save and open stuff. And you get the same splash screen. You can see the version number is the same. Yeah, the layout here is very, very similar to what we saw on desktop. For use on tablet, if you aren't using a keyboard and mouse, I would advise like hiding the bottom tab there. This is a Galaxy tablet, so yours may look a bit different. So on Android, this all looks very similar, as you can see, but it's a little bit more crushed, it's a little more dense. So again, we can enable news, we can open new files, everything looks very, very similar. But yeah, if you find that if this layout is a bit too dense for use on tablet, then just open this top right button here and click on minimal, and you may find that this is a slightly better layout, especially if you don't have a keyboard to use with tablet. These icons here are sort of like big touchscreen friendly versions of most of the same functionality. It's basically like pre-made keyboard shortcuts or macros on the touch docker here, and you can move these around. So like, yeah, you can resize this. It resizes horizontally okay, it doesn't resize vertically very well. If we drag it up to here, the icons are basically invisible. But yeah, we'll talk more about workspaces in another video. I would highly advise, by the way, like I'm not going to be able to answer all of your questions, and most of what I'm going to teach you in this series is based on stuff that I've learned from reading the KRITA documentation. Let me show you that like very quickly actually. If we just go to KRITA manual, user manual, this is kind of everything you need. So there's probably nothing that I'm going to teach you in these videos that you can't learn from the user manual, but it's just presenting it in a different format because I know a lot of people learn better from videos than from reading. Alright, so yeah, feel free to subscribe, and if you're watching this in a playlist, then have fun watching the rest of the videos and learning how to use KRITA. I hope you have a good time. I don't know how to end videos. Bye.